keynote speaker, Rick Cnossen. Rick is a global senior director in the Health and Life Sciences group at Intel, and he manages several worldwide innovation centers, which are developing the next generation of innovative healthcare technology solutions. One of the exciting efforts that Rick mentioned to me when we chatted was his work in understanding the human genome for the purposes of curing cancer. And this kind of work, as opposed to our current techniques of our technologies and radiation and chemotherapy, offers a much better course and a much gentler way of recovery. And since all of us at one point in time or another in our life will either face cancer ourselves or for one of our loved ones, this is a pretty significant mission that he's on. There are some significant technical challenges in this work involving reducing the time to understand those genomes from maybe 2 weeks to 2 hours. And that is where they are turning their attention, especially I am assuming in the computer science domain. As you can read in the bio at the front of your brochure, Rick has been involved in product development in a variety of areas, not limited to healthcare, including medical devices, telco, modular servers, tactical defense, hierarchical data storage, and high-performance computing. He has worked as a launching and leading healthcare industry consortia efforts, and I did a little decoding ring on the acronyms in the bio, so I have some of that. HIMSS is the Healthcare Information and Management Systems Society. Health Level 7, or HL7, is an ANSI standards group for healthcare information interchange. HITS is the Healthcare Information Technology Standards Panel, and there's Continua. I think we may all know who IEEE is. We know the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi technologies. So as you can see, Rick has had a broad impact, not only in the healthcare and healthcare information fields, but in technology fields in general. As an internationally renowned speaker on healthcare technology and innovation, I think we're very privileged to have Rick Cnossen join us today. Please give him a warm welcome.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Can you hear me okay in the background?
Yeah.
She talked about the collaborative cancer cloud that I'm passionate about, but really it's more around a field called personalized medicine, which says we're not going to treat you the way that you've been treated in the past with your doctor and your record, but more treat you as a person. So for example, if you do have a particular type of cancer, and let's say there's 6 different treatment options for that cancer, right? Which one is optimal for you? Well, we can look at your demographics. We can go ahead and get your genome and say you have a proclivity to respond to this type of treatment or that type of treatment. We can look at your clinical history. We can look at where you're from and hone in on treatment number 3. This is the one that's going to be best suited for you as an individual. It's called personalized medicine. And that's where we're going into the future. And that's where we're doing the work around getting someone's genome and being able to analyze that and seeing if there's some molecular way we can treat cancer instead of hitting people with chemotherapy and radiation, essentially killing them slowly. So anyways, with that aside, I was going to talk today about technology vortex of change. And I know there's technology people here and healthcare people here, so I tried to put something together that was technology-centric with some examples around healthcare. When we talk about this technology vortex of change, businesses and technology are changing at a tremendous rate. And we're in a situation where companies that are large and we're seen as they can't fail, now they're failing. They're turning over on their ears because of globalization and equalization. We're seeing where the hunters are becoming the hunted in terms of companies. Innovative companies are thriving, others are not. Fast-changing world. So we're going to explore that a little bit. Yeah, I don't have the clicker. So every 100 to 150 years, we have this accelerated innovation wave. It's really called this is sort of the third industrial revolution. The first being steam and coal and all the industries that came up around steam and coal. The second being gasoline, and think about the car and the truck and everything that came around gasoline. This is the third one around the internet, around compute, around data. And if you look at this little bit, in 1951, first commercial computer, then we have first IBM PC in 1993. Facebook launched 2001, and we see some of the more recent ones, iPad and iPad recently, but it's just taken up at an exponential rate here. If the internet were a movie, we'd still be in the opening credits. It's going to continue that way. I talk to a lot of clients around the world, and they say, when is the rate of change going to stop? I can hardly keep up. And my answer to them is not anytime soon. In fact, it's picking up. And that's where we're at. Significant innovation, and less than 60% of the world still isn't connected. So this rise of the as-a-service is just getting started. So in order to let you visualize that and grapple it, I can throw numbers at you, but I have a quick video that just lets you visualize what are we talking about here, this unprecedented change that the internet, which is fairly new in the grand scheme of things, is causing. So could you roll video number 1, please? Okay, so hopefully you're convinced that we're in a state of tremendous change and it's a great opportunity. What I was going to talk to you about is some of the emerging trends, disruptive trends in the world around technology and businesses. And let's call them opportunities, if you will. And then some of the technology changes that are rising up around the trends to address them. And then lastly, a platform that successful companies are embracing to help them successfully cope and compete with these changes. So let's look at some of the disruptive opportunities. First, let's look at demographic changes. This new generation is born and they're just expected to be connected. I know I have a 14-year-old daughter, and she is always connected on her phone or on her computer. And products and solutions and companies that provide those in the future, right? They are going to have to be connected. Now, as we talk through this presentation, I hope that you sit back and think about your degree or where you're working or what you're going to be doing and how some of these impact you and what you can take away from this to go, make your business or where you plan to go a more successful competitor. You're going to have to accommodate this connected generation. Next one, rise of mega cities. From 3.6 billion to 6.3 billion in 60, a huge influx of people from the suburbs to the big cities around the world. What's this going to mean for infrastructure, water, power, cooling, that sort of thing? It's a big demographic change, right? Third, the emergent middle class. In places like China and India, the middle class is becoming more and more. In fact, in China right now, they just surpassed the number of middle class people from the United States. Now, of course, China has 4 times as many people as the United States, but the number in the middle class is bigger than the United States. The market for middle class is bigger. That's all causing a huge demand for increased education and medical and health. The middle class, they want to have good education and good health care. So there's a big increase in health care and education around the world, right? How about water? 40% of the people will be water stressed by 2050. What does that mean in terms of an opportunity for you? And then relentless cyber attacks. We Intel bought McAfee about maybe 7 years ago for a lot of money. But if you go to their downtown headquarters, which I've done in Santa Clara, they have a big map of the world, and they just show every time they get a malicious virus or a malicious entity that appears, and it's just like a flickering light. They get over 100,000 attacks a day. And now some of them are small variants on others, but compared to 10 years ago, it's just an exponential. So those are some of the demographic changes that are driving disruption. Let's look at security and privacy a little more. Some of you maybe remember when Target was hit by a leak of credit cards. Also, a few months ago, a hospital in California was shut down for 3 days with people that had ransom out until they paid for the ransom. But it takes almost 80% of the organization takes weeks to months to detect the breach, and then another 80% take days to months to recover from the breach. Really, that's not really acceptable if you're a company. You have to do better than that. Now, let's talk about cybercrime real quick. How much is your data worth out there on the internet? If you look at this bar here, right, the little code on the back of your debit card, it's worth $2. Your ID package, your name, and your date of birth is worth $3. Your bank account details $5, right? An old credit card, $5. And your new credit card from $20 to $45. This is how much this data is available on the black market. Now, cybercrime is a real and growing market. They estimate that cybercrime is now $1 trillion a year business. This is more than double the illicit drug trade around the world. It's no longer some 15-year-old kids in a garage that are hacking. It's an organized business, cybercrime. As you go out into the business and you compete, your company needs to consider, what are you doing about this disruptive trend? If you ignore it, your company reputation can be wiped. Your business could go downhill fast. It's one of the biggest topics. When I go and talk to CIOs around the world, one of the biggest topics, the risk around security. And Rick, how do we protect our data? What do we do to make sure we're not the next target? Okay, next one is the sharing economy. If you look at Wikipedia, what does that mean? An economic system in which assets or services are shared between private individuals, either free or for a fee, typically by means of the internet. Just a few of them. Some of these you might be familiar with, others not, but I thought I'd go through a few examples. These are growing up so fast and becoming so relevant. Airbnb. When you go on a business trip, instead of staying at a hotel, you can look up Airbnb and stay at a place in that city in someone's home, right? And in each of these, there's a way to pay that's digital. There's a way to rate it. This is disrupting the hotel business, Airbnb. Next one, Uber. Of course you're familiar with Uber. It's so much more convenient than a taxi. It'll pick you up wherever you want. The car is clean. They'll give you water. They're polite to you because you're going to rate them. You can pay automatically without getting out your bills and squabbling with them. I mean, it's totally disrupting the taxi business, which has been around for decades. Liquid space. You no longer need to think about if you want to do business in London, do you need an office there? You can rent an office, rent space for a day, month, year, wherever, around the world. It's revolutionizing the way companies think about their office space. Kickstarter. You need a venture fund for a good business, throw it out on the internet. See who's interested in that and who will give you funding for it. Upwork. If you need a little piece of work done, maybe a small program or an editing work done, go globally on the internet. Find someone that can do that. Find someone that's rated highly. Let them do that. It's changing the way companies think about their workforce. And are they required to have full-time people doing these works that maybe they're not busy or not full-time? Feastly. How many know what Feastly is? Raise your hand if you understand that. Feastly is fairly new. This is where someone enjoys cooking and they want to make a meal on a weekend in their home. Maybe they want to make a 3-course meal, pair it with wine. They enjoy doing it. and charge $150 for 6 people to come to their house and eat dinner with them. That's called Feastly, disrupting the restaurant business. And then lending clubs, of course, you could disrupting things. So anyways, this unstoppable rise of the sharing economy is very, very disruptive. Think about that. Let's double click in on Uber. Uber, founded in 2009 with 1,000 employees in 58 countries. Now the valuation is $50 billion since 2009. It's only 7 years. To sharing business. You read here, it says Uber plans to take 400,000 personal vehicles off the road and create 50,000 jobs. This is the notion of you have a car, you have some free time, you're going to share it with others. So not everybody has to have their own car. Right? How powerful is that? It says here, shared autonomous vehicles could reduce new car sales by over 40% in the next 25 years. So have we reached peak car? Is the sharing economy going to cause the auto industry to take a peak down? And this is the sharing economy isn't without its troubles. Here's a time cover. Strangers crashed my car, ate my food, and wore my pants. Kind of an exaggeration, but some of the issues that you're looking at with sharing. And here's another thing that I can't read, but some of the areas for debate are around. Do we have to regulate them? Are they paying proper taxes? Are they even legal? What about safety insurance? But these are nothing. The ROI, the value, the sharing is so great that we're going to overcome these. And people that are naysayers for this, or sitting on the side, or businesses, traditional businesses saying, I'm not going to worry about that. That's going to go away. It's not going to disrupt my business. I think should think again. Okay. Hopefully you're convinced that the world is changing fast and there's a lot of disruption out there. Right? Now let's look at how do we reinvigorate the enterprise, or what technology solutions do we bring to bear to help successful companies deal with and take advantages of this. So we have six pillars. Data-driven. Data is the new currency. Smart world. Internet of the things. On demand. You want what you need when you need. Trusted. It has to be trusted, as we talked about. Connected experiences. And then innovative workplace. These are the cornerstones of the new economy. Let's take a look at those. Let's drill down on those a little bit. First being data-driven, big data. Who hasn't heard of big data? Which CIO doesn't know from their board that they need to address big data? You want real-time data, and you want data with integrity. So let's talk about that in a minute. Data-driven. So one thing under personalization and context, you can have these sentiment analysis or ad customization. In a retail store, you walk by a camera and it can take your face and it can look at you and say, this is a person that's very happy or not happy, or this is a middle-aged male, and so I might want to put a car ad up, or I might want to put a perfume ad up. Customization, driving additional revenue, driving additional business for personalization. Democratization of analytics. In the cloud, being able to provide these smart assistants. There's a gasoline chain that has the Internet of Things device that monitors the worldwide price of gasoline. And several times a day, it'll take and change the price at that gasoline station based on where the price of the gas is going up. So innovation, driving additional revenues based on information you can get. Operational efficiency and safety. So bridge maintenance. If you have bridge and you're monitoring the fluctuation between portions of the bridge, and at some point it comes great, you notify the company to take care of that earlier, right? Also, parking, patient safety. In Rome, around the Colosseum, parking is atrocious, and it can take 15 to 20 minutes to find a parking spot. They're putting a system in place with camera monitors to identify where parking spots are and communicate that to people looking for it. Saving time, reducing congestion. Patient safety, this is one of the worlds I come from. When you discharge a person from the hospital, there's a high percentage of people that come back in the emergency room, especially from acute conditions. We've shown we can reduce that 10 to 15% by putting IoT devices on the patient in the home and monitoring them. For example, if they've had a heart attack and they're at home, and all of a sudden they start increasing weight, more than their trend. They're retaining water, and they're very likely to be back in an ambulance. So you can catch that early, bring them in, save costs, save lives. And then data as a service. If you look at something like skin cancer, I work with a hospital in Germany. They've got a huge library of skin cancer diagnoses. And here's a picture of the skin cancer. Here's the person who had it. This is the treatment we tried. It worked, it didn't work. As they build this library out, why not make it as a service? And that's what they were saying, Rick, how can we make this, put it on the internet, make it as a service? So when a doctor in a rural community has a skin cancer patient, that doctor is a GP, general physician, doesn't know much about it, but he or she can take a picture of it, send it to the German hospital. They can run analytics on it, compare it to, oh, here's 10 that are very similar. And for this person, the demographics line up, and this is probably what you should try. Data as a service. So now questions for you. Again, as you think about where you're going, where you're working, where your degree is, how will you drive value from your data? What data could be out there and available to you? And how will you drive value from it? Data is a new currency. Do you have a big data strategy? Most companies know they need one, and they're collecting data. They just don't know what to do with it. That's where the valuable employee comes in. What do we do with this data? How do we make more money? How do we save lives? How do we improve safety? And then what's holding you back? So how can you transform your business with trusted real-time data? And now looking forward in this area, a few things to watch. Data hubs. Hamburg, Germany is a huge port, and they've instrumented it with IoT devices. So they monitor the number of freight boats coming in. They monitor the number of trucks coming in with freight. They monitor the weather, the number of employees. They've been able to run analytics and all that to increase their efficiency by 15% for starters. That's a huge amount of money, right? Data hubs. And also machine learning and AI. I probably don't need to talk to you all about that, but Google Voice, learning your voice, Netflix, when you go to Netflix, it knows who you are. It recommends which videos you want using AI and machine learning. This is a big, big area going forward. Intel's investing a lot in this as well, machine learning. And then analytics is certainly moving to the cloud. So to be able to use analytics as a service, in the next 5 years, that's going to become commonplace. So let's talk now about this smart IoT, the smart world, those devices out there. And how can we provide operational excellence and increase revenue with that? Now, some of the things we see there in terms of optimizing, an example from GE. GE makes these big jet engines, but the preferred business model isn't to sell the jet engines to the airliner or the United Airlines. It's to lease out the engines. And what they do is they've been able to instrument these engines with thousands of sensors and detect when a filter needs to be changed, detect when something isn't running quite the way it should be. And they're able to save billions of dollars a year with IoT devices on these jet engines that are leased. Billions. We partner with GE on these types of solutions. Right? That's one thing. Traffic management. Cities that have put in sensors to detect how many cars are waiting at a light and change lights depending on that, have been able to see like 15 to 20% just operational increases in efficiency with cars waiting and congestion. What about operating remote control and telemedicine? These are things where you don't necessarily want to put a person out in harm's way, or you need to remote control something that's in a place that's high up or in a rainy condition. Or telemedicine. This is an area I've been involved in a lot. Being able to do video conferencing with someone in a rural village to an expert in the city, right? Especially in places like China. Just so fundamentally life-changing to be able to do that. So that's telemedicine. Let's look at the revenue growth. How about revenue growth? How about like time of day toll road? So you're going to pay a toll based on what time of day is it? Just automatically checking the license plates, getting the e-pay, and then sending digital content and software upgrades. So Uber has something where at nighttime, the software, not Uber, I'm sorry, the Prius, the car, At nighttime, its software will be updated. So in the morning, you wake up and the map is updated and there's new applications and services, and this offering to your customer becomes new again. So as you, a purchaser of the Uber or the Prius, your what you bought just gets better and better and is dynamic. That's the power of IoT. So again, for operational efficiency and revenue sharing, what use cases do you have or can you think of in the areas you're working where you might put these IoT edge devices and collect data and get analytics and drive either operational efficiencies or revenue? Think about that. How can you do that? Looking forward in IoT, areas to watch. First one is autonomous vehicles. And every major car manufacturer has something like this, research like this going. And you probably read where DARPA, US DARPA has a Navy ship now that's semi-autonomous, right? Going out there. Robots and drones, they're back for sure in a big way, particularly in areas like if there's a natural disaster, to be able to send a drone out and see where people are or see what it is where we can't get to. Maker community, very powerful, very powerful. A lot of innovation happening there. Shared power grids. You think about power grids where people put up solar panels, they're able to give back the energy they don't need, save money. This is changing the way power is done around the world. And smart cities, of course, cities around the world are becoming smart, monitoring their traffic, monitoring their air, monitoring congestion, their electricity usage. So I'm going to break up my presentation a little bit with a video. This is going to be an IoT type of device, but we can make this device smarter. And another example I would give is a company in Japan that makes an exoskeleton, which is like an aluminum skeleton that they put on people that can't walk. This allows them to walk, but they have a computer that sends data to the cloud and run analytics on it. So if a person falls, right, they can make adjustments to the algorithm. Same way with this. But let's run the second video.
Here you go. That's good. That's good. That's good.
I don't believe that you can fix someone. That was never my goal here. Daniel was 14 when the bomb hit. Hiding behind a tree saved his life. But after losing both of his arms, he said he wished it hadn't. He had lived 2 years without arms. Daniel is just one of over 50,000 amputees left in the wake of the bloodiest war Africa has ever known. The plan was to go to Sudan and 3D print prosthetic arms for Daniel. But that was just the beginning. We wanted to leave his village with the tools and knowledge of how to create these prosthetics long after we had gone.
This is going to be the hand that we work on for Daniel.
I still pinch myself the fact that I was able to teach a group of people to print. Many who had never worked with computers before and never seen a 3D printer before, and I taught them how to make arms. I didn't have access to that technology 2 years ago. So had it not existed, Project Daniel wouldn't have been possible. I have a process. And the process is you commit, and then you figure out how the heck you're going to do it. The second I saw the story about Daniel, I didn't need to reread it. When you look at a picture of a boy with bandaged stump arms, I mean, what do? You just, oh, that's too bad, and close the computer and go to bed? What do? You can't put the pieces back together in someone else's life. But maybe if we print them new pieces, they'll start to learn to put them back together themselves.
So powerful video, I think, illustrating how we can use technology to really impact people's lives in a positive way. And again, taking that a step farther as an intelligent IoT device, you can use algorithms and analytics to make improvements on that. All right, the next area and pillar, cloud computing. For sure, one of the biggest transformations we've seen to provide you agility and also to reduce costs, right? Cloud serving as a service, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. Established companies have big IoT groups and big CapEx investment. This allows new companies to come in with an operational expense, a monthly expense, and leverage the huge resources of a company like Amazon. Talk about security experts. They have probably 20 of the top security experts in the world, and you can pay as you go. It's a fundamentally a game-changing opportunity for new companies to transform and leverage the cloud. Cloud economics, orchestration and automation. We talked about that a little bit. You know, we talked about from weeks to days. At Intel, even 5 years ago, when I wanted a server set up, I would call IT and I'd say, I want a Linux-based server. I want it to have this much memory, this much storage, and I need it to have a SQL database or whatever. It'd take 2 weeks to do it. Now it's in 2 hours. It's really phenomenal. And then open for innovation, cloud-based programs. You could think of Google Maps and the APIs that Google Maps has for overlays and mashups to be able to provide all kinds of applications that require map databases. Right? Cloud changing the way things are done for sure. And looking forward to the future, right? Where is cloud going? We're going more than just virtualization, where you take an individual server and break it up so that multiple users can use that. Now we're also breaking up memory and storage and networking. Put it into infrastructure as a service. And if you're in IT or you are a company worried about the data center, you need to think about how are you embracing infrastructure as a service, because that's where the business is going, much more flexible. Okay, let's talk about the next pillar, which is security and privacy. And hopefully I convinced you that it's necessary to protect your brand and to reduce your risk. Very, very necessary. So, the chief security officer at Intel says, trust is won in drips and lost in buckets. It just takes one incident for your reputation to go down. And for security and privacy, it can't be something that's a bolt-on, just an after the fact. Maybe 10 years ago that was the case. But you remember I talked about those, the cybercrime as a business? Businesses can't just bolt on security anymore. It has to be something that's embedded in your culture. You have training, you have awareness, you have monitoring. It has to be built into your architecture. When you build out your systems and platforms and solutions, security has to be thought of in the requirements phase. It has to be integrated, not bolted on afterwards, right? You have to gain insights and make changes. It's not a one-time thing that's going to be static for 10 years. Of course, the nature of the threat is changing on a daily basis. Security. So think about, as you go into your place of work or your study, in light of the daily reporting of breaches, what action has your company taken? If none, are you at risk? Or what can you bring to bear to help in this area when you go out into the workplace or if you're already working? Okay, let's talk about connected experience. This is when you want to attract customers and maintain them. You want to provide them with a rich, interactive, connected experience so that they stick with you as a product, as a service. Right? Maybe you're used to Amazon because they got your credit card, you know how the search engine works, they're giving you what you need. That's a rich, connected experience that you want for customers. Okay? Gesture control and facial recognition, these are features that are becoming more popular. Instead of logging in my password, I want to just walk up to my laptop or a screen and say, this is Rick, log me on. I want to use multi-factor authentication, looking at my face, recognizing it's Rick, and recognizing my voice. This is Rick, log me on, right? Language barriers will be eliminated. I don't know if you use Google Translate, But I travel the world, and Google Translate is phenomenal. There's languages that I have no idea, and I actually just speak in English, and I say translate it to German, to Portuguese, and it says it in Portuguese. It allows me to communicate in ways that were unheard of. So augmented reality, this is where maybe you're going to do a redesign on a building. You can take a 3D image of the building and take the design and mesh it up so you can actually see what it's going to look like before you invest the money to do it. Wearables, ubiquitously collecting information. This is something in healthcare and we'll talk about it in a little bit, that this is something that's new and emergent and very good. Self-driving cars, we talked about this. Maybe it's not self-driving just yet, but it's augmented driving. So if you're going to get an accident, it'll stop the car for you, but it's going more and more self-driving. And then, let's go to the next slide. So when you think about your business, what immersive digital experiences can you provide your customers to attract and maintain them, most importantly? They're expecting immersive personal experiences. All right. Innovative workforce. If you look at the millennials, or the Gen Ys, only 7% of them work for Fortune 500 companies. 7%, only 7%, favoring startups. There's something about these Fortune 500 stodgy companies that millennials, Gen Ys aren't fond of. And in 2025, 75% of the employees will be Gen Y. So some companies have a real problem. In order for companies to stay viable and active, they need to think about innovation, velocity, and openness. How are you going to change your compensation structure? How are you going to motivate your workers to do things that are market-driven around velocity, and have this open sharing attitude? It's something you need to think about. Also, we're talking about the rise of the human cloud. And no longer do you go to work and you just go to your desk and print something out. Now you're connected to a much bigger world of information, of partners, and you have access and tools to those. You become your own cloud, if you will. The work environment, how do you make it an immersive work environment where you can collaborate with people globally and have 3D visual touch as if they were right there next to you? Right? Instead of today, it's kind of like this, reality. Right? So in order to attract and maintain the top workers and the Gen Ys, you need to think about what's the workspace look like and how are you going to do that. Okay. So we talked about the disruptive changes that are going on. We talked about 6 pillars of IT and how successful companies are considering those and embracing them. Now let's look at a platform that puts those all together that successful companies are using. We call it the Smack Stack. Smack stands for social, mobile, analytics, and cloud. Social. Solutions and platforms need to have social built in. If you think about Wikipedia, it's in so many languages around the world. It's information that's available to the world. If you think about if you need information, you can get information online 24/7 from smart people around the world that are involved in the domain that you're involved in. It's no longer that you have to go to the smart person in your company that works from 9 to 5 and when they're not on vacation. You have access to an entirely different world of information. That's social. Mobile. People are expected to connect where they are, when they are, and get the data they want. Not just at work behind the firewall. Mobile. Mobile also provides a lot of data with the IoT devices that can be collected and analyzed for analytics. Cloud. The cloud is the reason this is all possible because all these data are going into the cloud, can be combined with research, can be combined with other data and analytics to provide key insights. And analytics I just spoke about, this is the way you take the data and gain insights from it for efficiency, or cost savings, or safety. It's called the Smack Stack. And when you see the companies on this page, what do you think of? What's the commonality between the companies on this page? They're online. Most of them didn't exist 10 years ago. They're using the Smack Stack type of platform. That's called Smackstep. Now I'm going to give you an example, a healthcare example, of a program we put in place built on the Smackstep. This is a Parkinson's disease platform. And maybe, does anybody know who this is here? Andy Grove, right. He passed away just a few months ago, unfortunately. But he had Parkinson's, if you didn't know that, in a significant way. He put a lot of his money and research into Parkinson's, even Intel, he pulled Intel in as well. And of course, you know, Michael J. Fox has Parkinson's as well, right? So Andy saw something in the New York Times about Internet of Things analytics called Michael J. Fox Foundation. We did a partnership together to put a solution. I want to share that with you based on Smackstep. First, let's talk about Parkinson's disease real quick. Parkinson's disease is something that there's no cure for, and medications only slow down. It helps with the symptoms. It's also very slow moving, and it's hard to detect the progress. Is someone getting better or are they not? Right? 1 in 100 over the age of 60,000 new a year, 1 million in the US, 5 million in the world. It's really a reduction of your dopamine cells, and by the time you know that you have Parkinson's, 60 to 80% of your dopamine cells are gone. So it's a very tragic disease, not very easy to treat, monitor, and control. Let me ask you a question then. Raise your hands if you can articulate how you've felt in the last 12 months in comparison to the previous year. So just how have you felt in the last 12 months in comparison to the previous year? Can you articulate that? You can. Okay, a few of you can, but I think that the premise here is you can't manage what you can't measure. With Parkinson's disease, the way that people are expected to measure how they're doing is they have little logbooks. And they open it up when they have a tremor, which is how it manifests itself. They open up their logbook and say, tremor lasted this long. It was on a scale of 1 to 10, 6. But they don't want to do this. They don't want Parkinson's disease to define them. They want to live their life. So how much better for us to put a device on them, collect it automatically, provide more data, provide it ubiquitously without interfering with their lives, and provide it with accuracy. Right? That's what we did. So the solution, you wear a watch and you start an application. The watch has a 3G accelerometer, measures your tremors. The application on your smartphone takes the data over Bluetooth, sends it to the cloud. So here's the use case. Parkinson's disease person is measuring their gait and their tremors. It's going into the cloud, and analytics consume the data and make observations. Now, who's this for? It's for 4 different customers. First, it's for the patient itself. So the patient can monitor their sleep. One of the things with Parkinson's disease is depending on your medication, you don't get good sleep. Good sleep translates to quality of life. And if they can monitor, hey, I took my medicine at this time and my sleep was good or bad, they can hone in on what gives them optimal sleep. It also gives them tools to make sure they take their medicine or not. Big problem. Okay, what about researchers? It gives researchers a bunch of information to see what Parkinson's disease is about and come up with new innovative ways to treat it. What about the poor clinician who wasn't able to help their patient diagnose, are they getting better, are they worse, should they switch medicines or not? This provides powerful tools for the clinician to be able to understand how their patient is evolving or not. Remember, it's very slow moving. And lastly, for pharmaceuticals, I want to try new drugs. This is an outstanding way to reduce the time to get new drugs on the market and really evaluate the effectiveness. They spend billions of dollars on this. Believe me, they're willing to pay millions to have wearables to help them collect accurate data, sufficient data. We're working with several of those on diseases like this. So just the framework, the Smackstep framework, right? Yeah, the mobile phone that's taking the data over Bluetooth, sending it over 3G, 4G, to the cloud, running analytics on it, right? You're doing structured gait measurements, you're measuring tremors, and 24/7. So that's an example of a Smackstep platform in health context.
Yeah, just try to keep that manual off of his head.
Okay, closing thoughts. We talked
It's
about
actually showing on
the
this
rate of
screen, so
change.
keep it off his
Okay, you're
head.
convinced this world is changing at a fast rate. Companies you're going into, they need to change in order to survive. And if you're innovative, you'll thrive. We talked about some of the IT trends and technologies that are out there. Data. How much data? Data is a new currency. What data is out there for you to collect? Which IoT devices can you put out there? What about security? Are you thinking about how to secure your data or not? How are you immersing your new customers so that they're sticky and they have an experience? How about your workforce? Are you keeping a good workforce with great tools and easy place that it's easy to work to? So 3 final thoughts. What areas in your industry are ripe for business transformation? Think about competitors that might come up and use these sort of things and undermine you in a matter of years. How is your company embracing the new business models, some of the things we're talking about, or is your company embracing it? And will you lead the charge? If not you, then who will? Will be a competitor. So hopefully this has been some food for thought. Hopefully you've learned a few things about technology and about the changes in the world. And I'm hopeful that as you leave here, you'll continue to think about how you might apply this to your career or to your studies to make you even more valuable in your respective fields. Thank you very much.